This is the morning of the 13th of August, 2024. Went to the gun range this morning, took my 6.5 Creedmoor Precision. On a cold bore shot at 200 yards, I hit the head of a steel pigeon, the actual size of a pigeon. The head's about that big. Put first round in it. Took a second shot, put a second round in it, took a third shot, put a round in it. Then I went out to 400 yards, hit a turkey, the size of an actual turkey. And then I went out 500 yards and hit a 10-inch diamond. If you guys want a real accurate long-range weapon, take a look at a Ruger Precision. I'm on my third barrel. I've burnt out 2 other barrels. The gun's incredibly accurate. And I load my own ammunition. I think that all makes a bit of a difference as far as accuracy is concerned. And coming back in the car, listening to KFYI, and they're talking about Tampon Tim. And I went ahead and I did a search and I found what they were talking about. I'm going to talk about that in this video. But I first want to talk about this other article on Tim on Fox, written by Taylor Penley, Penley. Who is Tim Waltz? Fox Nation takes a deep dive into the life and political career of camel-face on her knees Kamala Harris VP pick. Who is Tim Waltz is streaming now on Fox Nation. Accusations of stolen valor, a resurfaced DUI arrest, and controversial tampon policy have all littered Minnesota Governor Tim Waltz's entry into the 2024 Democratic Party ticket. Being chosen as Vice President, Kamala Harris's running mate thrusts him into the spotlight, open to both media praise and scorn, and leading those who are unfamiliar with his record to ask, who exactly is Tim Waltz? I think if the Democrats would have done their due diligence, they never would have allowed her to pick this garbage can of a person. Fox Nation latest special sets out to answer that question, diving into the political career of the former geography teacher and veteran who became the next vice president should Harris emerge victorious this November. Why was he called a veteran? Take a look at this guy. Does he look like he's, one of those? He sure gives me that aura of being one of those. Like Barack Obama, a poo pusher. As the Fox Nation special explores, the Nebraska-born Minnesota Democrat got a start in politics as a county coordinator for then Democratic presidential candidate John Kerry in 2004. He later eked out a victory over his opponent, a 12-year incumbent, in a 2006 House race with support from Teamsters and other unions, and went on to serve 6 terms in Congress, setting the stage for his even later run for the governorship. His district turned out purple to red, but his voting record is solid blue, Fox News' Brian Kilmeade explaining during the special. We're talking gender-affirming care, throwing boatloads of money at public schools, thinking that will solve the problem, Fox News contributor Joe Concha said, highlighting a common criticism among conservatives that Waltz is exceedingly progressive. But most importantly, believing that the United States government should spend trillions of dollars to fight the climate crisis, he continued. Waltz beat out a series of top Democrats for the VP spot, including California Governor Gavin Newsom Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, prompting the question, what does he bring to the ticket? Look at this bitch, he always wears pants. You sort of wonder why a camel face on her knees always wear pants. Maybe it's to hide his dick. I have no idea, Contra said. To some, he appears to be a relatable Midwestern man, a feat that could pull in swing state voters. He grew up in small-town Nebraska, joined the military, attended a state college, and became a teacher. And after meeting and marrying his wife, Gwen, the duo moved back to her home state of Minnesota. I think he's bisexual, personally. He certainly gives off the vibes of being one of those. And this is somebody who could be very relatable in key states that matter, Concha added. But other stains on his past have resurfaced, including the 1995 DUI arrest. While some view it as problematic, others see it as a redemption story, including Democratic strategist Kevin Walling. Republicans like Trump running mate J.D. Vance are also calling into question the timing of Waltz's exit from the military in 2005, just before his unit was deployed to Iraq. Let's listen to this clip, see if there's an ad in there first. This plays for 2 minutes and 34 seconds. There's an ad. It'll be another 10 seconds before that ad's gone. They inundate us with ads, don't they?
Republicans are attacking what some have called the most progressive Democratic ticket in U.S. history. Let's look at some of the specifics regarding Vice Presidential pick Tim Waltz. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin has that part of the story. He's in Chicago tonight.
Governor Tim Waltz was at the helm when Minneapolis burned following the murder of George Floyd. Even the city's liberal mayor criticized Waltz for hesitating to...
During the murder of George Floyd overdosed on fentanyl. He murdered himself. His family got millions of dollars from Minnesota. Let's go back.
The National Guard.
There's philosophically an argument to be made that an armed presence on the ground in the midst of where we just had a police killing is seen as a catalyst. My point to that is we don't need a catalyst. It's already burning.
In the hesitation, a police precinct was overrun. City blocks burned. The damage estimate is $500 million. 3 people died.
But obviously that was an unprecedented situation. And I think on balance, he handled that as well as we could. It was a moving event.
Waltz also served in the Army National Guard.
For 24 years, I proudly wore the uniform of this nation.
He went to Italy in support of the war in Afghanistan. Critics note that he retired in 2005 and ran for Congress before his unit went to Iraq.
Given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone.
Waltz was a teacher, a coach, and a liberal. He supported free college tuition for illegal migrants and issued an executive order to safeguard gender-affirming care. He mandated masks during COVID and set up a hotline for citizens to report violators.
He has really embraced this far-left agenda. If the Democrats are looking for balance on this ticket, they're not getting it with Tim Waltz.
With a mugshot from a 1995 DUI making the rounds on social media, Waltz was one of the first Democrats to call Republicans weird.
You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
And just a short time ago, we tracked down the video of the statement Republicans are referencing when they accuse Waltz of stolen valor. It's from his campaign in 2018, and he's advocating assault weapons bans.
But we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states. And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Now, Waltz went overseas in support of a war, but it appears he did not seek combat. The Hertz Waltz campaign said he's a tireless advocate of men and women in uniform. John?
Mike Tobin with the latest from Chicago tonight. Mike, thank you.
Yeah.
As governor, however, Waltz has had a front row seat to all newsworthy events of recent years. The COVID-19 pandemic, the Black Lives Matter riots that followed, the 2020 death of George Floyd, among others. I'm glad they said George Floyd death versus killing. Republicans have continually grilled him for his progressive stance on both and on other issues like abortion and immigration. But after President Biden's poor debate performance against Donald Trump sent his re-election bid into a downward spiral, camel-faced Kamala Harris took the reins as the presumptive nominee, leaving her with the decision of who would be her second in command if she assumed the presidency. This is just totally insane. She got 1% of the vote when that bitch ran for president. 1%. He's really bubbled up to the surface as a happy warrior, as someone who's not going to outshine the top of the ticket, Walling said. To learn more about the Democratic Vice President nominee, sign up for Fox Nation and begin streaming Who is Tim Waltz today. Let's see what's in this. Another ad. It'll be gone in a few seconds.
Joining us now, Colorado Congressman Jason Crow. Congressman, welcome. And to both of you, thank you for your service, because both of you have worn the uniform, and we appreciate that beyond your congressional service as well. So let's start here with the stolen valor conversation that we had with Senator Cotton. We talked about this timeline in February of 2005 that Governor Waltz was notified it's possible that his team was going to be called up. In March of that year, March 20, 2005, he says this: as Command Sergeant Major, I have a responsibility not only to ready my battalion for Iraq, but also to serve if called on. I'm dedicated to serving my country to the best of my ability, whether that is in Washington, D.C. or in Iraq. But Congressman, by the time his team was called up, he had retired. And despite that statement about he would serve if called on, he ultimately didn't.
Yeah, Shannon, thanks for having me. You know, military service is tough. And serving in a military unit is tough. So you have to be able to rely on your fellow veteran, your fellow service member. You know, that is a deep ethos in the military, that we have each other's backs. So there's really very few things that sadden me more when you see a veteran maligning and attacking falsely another veteran. And that's why it's so sad to see Senator Vance turning on Tim Waltz and perpetuating these false attacks. Tim Waltz served for 24 years in uniform. He started when he was 17, enlisted as a private, just like me. I actually have a special place in my heart for fellow privates. These are the junior enlisted. You start at the bottom and you work your way up, just like I did when I was in the military. And what's really exciting about Tim Waltz is not only did he serve for 24 years, that he held the position of Command Sergeant Major in his unit, which is the highest enlisted position in the unit, but he is now the highest enlisted person to ever be on a presidential ticket. That is exciting for the middle class. That is exciting for working Americans, and I'm excited for this ticket.
Well, and you talk about, though, the reliance that men and women...
This guy who's blabbering so whacked out Democrats, he's excited about Waltz being on the ticket, huh?
uniform have to be able to have on their fellow brothers and sisters, but there are National Guardsmen who served with him in that period who felt abandoned by him, the man that was supposed to command and take them forward. They're now speaking out saying they did feel like he left them behind.
No, they are not, Shannon, just to be very clear. Overwhelmingly, the people that served with Tim Waltz said that he served with distinction. Yeah, and military units are like families, Shannon. They're like families, right? You're brothers and sisters, and they don't always get along. People have personal grievances. People are angry at each other, and it's very sad to see that. I don't know what's motivating these folks that have spoken out. I'm sure there's some kind of personal grievance there. But overwhelmingly, people who serve with Tim Waltz know what type of person he is. Even those who are Republicans, even those who said that they're not going to vote for him, said that he served with distinction. That's the true story here. His record is very clear. And it's very exciting that we're going to have the most senior enlisted person on a presidential ticket in American history. That is a monumental thing.
Yeah, in the meantime, we've got questions now about what kind of commander-in-chief Kamala Harris would be, the vice president, should she become president. Critical to you and to everybody else who wears the uniform or has worn it. The Wall Street Journal editorial board says it's a mystery because there's so much going on in foreign policy and we don't know exactly where she would land on these things. They say she's all but telling Americans they'll have to elect her to find out what she really believes. This is bad enough on domestic issues, but on foreign policy, it could be perilous. The world is more dangerous than it's been in decades, and Americans deserve to know how the woman aiming to be commander-in-chief, Harris, would confront these threats. What obligation does she have now to start?
I think it's totally insane having anybody become commander-in-chief not having served. They can't relate. I mean, it's completely, totally insane, including Donald Trump. You know, he never should have been allowed to become president in the first place. I don't understand how they allow that. It's just totally insane. Enough of that. Now I'm going to go to this other article that I also attached. Light 'em up! Police shoot paintballs at Minneapolis residents standing on their porch. Governor of Minnesota says almost 11,000 National Guard members will be deployed in the city. This was published on Sunday, May the 31st, 2020. This is what I heard on the radio, and I did a search. I couldn't believe it. Police officers and National Guard forces in Minneapolis shot paintballs at residents standing outside on their porch as the curfew was enforced throughout the city. A video posted on Twitter on Saturday night appears to show the Minnesota National Guard and State Police ordering the residents of one street to go inside before they turn their weapons on a group of residents. The footage captures people rushing inside the property after shots are fired, and shows where one member of the public had been hit by a paintball. Can you believe that this piece of shit governor would order this kind of activity? Armed officers can be heard shouting, "Light 'em up!" before the shots start. At around the time of the shooting on Saturday at 8 p.m., curfew was implemented in Minnesota, the city where protests started after the death of George Floyd on the 25th of May. I'm glad, again, they said the death instead of the murder. The guy OD'd on fentanyl. Tim Waltz, the governor of Minnesota, said that the National Guard will be fully mobilized. The number on duty in the city will rise from more than 4,000 to almost 11,000. The protests against Floyd's death and other police killings have swept across the U.S. in recent days. Watch on X. Let's see what's here.
Oh, there's more. Look at this. They just keep coming.
Oh, go inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in, get in, get in, get in, get in, get in! Get in!
Oh, God, that hurt. You good?
Are you okay?
Right on the fucking crotch.
Are you okay? You got hit?
I'm good. They're fucked for that, dude. What?
Okay.
Isn't that illegal to use our military against civilians? According to the Associated Press, more than 1,300 people have been arrested since Thursday in 16 cities across the country. More than 500 of these happened in Los Angeles on Friday. Police have been accused of brutality in their attempt to stifle the protests, while the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, announcing an investigation into the force used by New York police against demonstrators on Friday. You know, when you watch that clip, it's reminiscent of the Nazis. rounding up the Jews. You know what else this piece of shit did? He opened up a hotline to have people report other people that were not wearing masks. I mean, the guy's absolute garbage. But so is Kamala Harris. Absolute garbage. I'll attach both links. Look at them. Let me know what you think. Pass it along. And thanks for listening.